Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Giacalone, and I'm a senior manager of B2B marketing operations at Teladoc Health. Today, we're going to be storytelling of a eventful time of when I joined and how there was all manual routing for leads to multiple CRMs and the sales team. And I should advance to my agenda. And this entire use case is really going to talk about how we approached our purchasing process for a tool to work with and partner to make sure that leads flowed seamlessly to the multiple CRMs. What do we want to do next? And really the key takeaways of the roadblocks that we hit along the way, and where hopefully if you're trying to do something like this, you can not hit these roadblocks. Real quick, Teladoc Health, we are the global leader in virtual care. As a part of this, because we work with multiple business segments across different organization sizes, as well as our partners, this is where it gets very complex to make sure that we're taking inbound and routing it to the correct people. With that said, we do have a very large B2C arm of our business, and this is not going to be covered today because our team does not manage that. With that said, our biggest problem with all of this, as I started off with, of everything was manual, is speed to lead. Coming up, we had a very big problem in the sense of when inbound or list loads or anything from events would come into the system, would flow to a lead queue, and then we had people taking those records, looking at a spreadsheet, and then assigning it to the correct salesperson. In 2025, I think we all know that that's very unacceptable, and we needed to fix it. So with that said, we decided we were either going to evaluate no-cost solutions that we already had, or we were going to do a very regimented evaluation of some of the best-in-class leaders here to determine our next steps. Spoiler, we went with Openprise because really, ultimately, we didn't want to be cornered into a single solution that was a point solution. We wanted to be able to grow at scale, grow with a company, and as well as really enjoy the people that we were working with. The sales process with some of these was not the greatest of experiences. And I don't know if everybody here is an Openprise customer, but the CS team is absolutely wonderful, and particularly Chaz and Ryan, they are who we really implemented all of this with. So with that said, real quick, taking us through our 3 core systems for all of this. We have a single Marketo instance that flows into our primary Salesforce instance, and our last business segment does live off on their own in this separate instance, and as you all know, Marketo, unfortunately, can only be connected to a single Marketo instance, or a single Salesforce instance, I'm sorry, and yeah, that just creates a very complex situation trying to get a totally different business unit their information. So these next few, I'm going to take us through a couple flow charts. This is our complete data ingest of how everything's going to sort of funnel to these next 3 slides. And something important to note with the next 3 slides is all of this happens simultaneously because we can run everything simultaneously using Openprise. So real quick, I think a lot of people know there's 3 situations when you have records coming into your marketing automation platform and then flowing into your Salesforce. You can have an existing contact record, you can have an existing lead record, or a lead record that's not assigned and still being nurtured, or you can have someone who's completely net new. So when you're able to flow through each of these different lanes, you're able to segment your data and allow everything to pass on its own time. So our primary Salesforce and our primary business segment that has the highest volume by far of lead records, and this slide's going to look very similar to the next, and we do this specifically because we have high volume that we want to get into a salesperson's hands. Data flows in. We have a lead to account matching step within Openprise, and we have confidence levels of high, medium, and low confidence. And all of that is based off of company name, email domain, website, and then geographic location. And so if we have a very clean record, think of like a web form that we're capturing all of this, we almost always know that we're going to get a high confidence match, and we're going to be able to immediately convert that to a contact assigned to the account owner, and they're going to have that lead within minutes. Now, in situations where we don't have all of that information right off the bat, or it can be someone completely net new, that is where we run to lead routing. So once that determination's been made that we can't L2A, we go to route, and that is completely based off of a data table that we import and keep updated as a data source within Openprise. So moving to this next piece, our remaining 4 segments that live in our primary Salesforce follows the same exact methodology, and as I said before, this can run at the same exact time as our primary process. The reason we do keep this split up is because at the point in time when we were implementing, we were still in the phase of learning of what each sales team wanted to do. And so we made sure that we kept this separate just in case at any point that a sales leader wants to change how this interaction happens with their team. So we can be very dynamic and they can just keep going in each of their own lanes. Now, to the really fun part, our Salesforce instance that is often no man's land, and with the business unit that the bulk of their information is all form fills. So we would love to get them like the prime like Marketo information that comes along with the form fill, but we can't connect to them. So what we had done was we made this process within Openprise that we identify their segment through any means of getting when we ingest their data, and we infer against what campaign or program they came in Marketo. We have an identical campaign set up in their Salesforce instance, and with that, we are able to assign this record to the correct sales queue and then assign it to the campaign. So if you're a sales user or a marketing user of our business segment here, they're able to just go in and interact with this data just as someone of one of the primary segments would be able to in our primary Salesforce. Something that we do differently for this team, they have a very different sales process. They have a very different quoting process and product configuration. So the majority of the leads will go directly to an opportunity development team, but they like to treat organic differently. So we now are implementing a new process for those organic leads to be followed up with a separate team. So it's kind of great that we're able to very dynamically split records off when we need to, or keep everything in the primary flow of a hand raiser or an event lead. Now, there's a lot of moving parts there, multiple systems. I know a couple presentations earlier today had shown a view of the enterprise apps within Openprise. And I feel, for me, as an operations practitioner that has been doing this for years, I always like to focus on trying to figure out where we're running into errors and how we can sort of resolve those very quickly and then prevent them from happening in the future. So for these processes, we have composite apps built within the app factory, and we're able to identify the exact time when a record was lead to account matched, what account it's going to match to, and then if there is a conversion error or an assignment error, when that happens, and we have the fields to be able to just sort of go, look, identify, and we can go to it. It tells us the exact issue. We can update that information, and the record will just re-go through the flow, and it gets to the salesperson within a few minutes. What's really great is that we can do this for lead to account match, routing, as well as routing in the secondary Salesforce. So with that, our outcome, and if we go back to the very beginning of this was a manual process, people were looking at a queue and assigning them directly to a salesperson. We took something that at some point took days because we would get an event list of thousands of people to this cycle runs every 10 minutes, the same way that the Marketo sync to Salesforce runs. So there is never a window where something is just sitting there waiting for outreach from a salesperson. It's getting right to them, and we're able to follow up very fast. When we have all of the information that we need to, there's no needing to touch records, there's no needing to update information. It flows directly through. And as you can see above, our accuracy is very, very high. I would say anytime that I'm uploading a list through list loading, I'm really only needing to figure out what's going on with 3 to 5 of those records. Of course, that scale changes a ton when you're uploading a giant event list. So that leads me into what's next. There's no presentation here in the past few days without mentioning AI. I'm going to come back to that one because the point that I was just making of automating enrichment for when records are flowing in. I know Health Catalyst had a wonderful discussion about this, about enriching records. And I think we're really going to leverage some of those ideas. And when we're making a fully complete record, that will be when we then send that to the sales team. Now, with that said, AI, how can we make this better using that? I've been really interested in all of the Ask AI templates and prompt configuration. So the big thing that we're going to try to solve is trying to get a really solid qualification prompt to stop B2C records from flowing into B2B forms and B2B campaigns. We do this already with some qualifying questions when someone's looking for a form submission. But every once in a while, they do slip through. So if we're able to make this very efficient of removing those records before it gets to a salesperson, as well as making sure that we don't have any personal information that we should not have in our B2B systems, that's going to be the end goal for us. With that said, lessons we learned and key takeaways. Start with the problem. There's no need to immediately say, like, I need to buy a solution for this, or we're looking at a bunch of point technologies. Make sure that you're really starting with your problem, looking at the free options that you have available to you, and ultimately finding a partner that's going to grow your process at scale. I can't see that well, but I think I see Chaz at the back. Chaz was really the one that we built this entire thing together. And that, I think, is the real key of our partnership with Openprise is, again, I already said this, but the customer success team is wonderful. And last but not least, I think the biggest blocker that I dealt with this entire project was our own CRM validation rules. Not having the correct permissions to be able to instantly convert a record, not being able to allow a record to flow through different lead statuses was something that held us back for way more time than I would ever want it to have. So I think if I ever need to do this type of work again, which I'm sure I will, is definitely going to make sure that we heavily review all of the different validation rules on the objects that we're using. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions we have, and thank you. Ed, microphone's on the way, Ed.
Is your Salesforce 2's data also in Marketo?
What was that?
Your Salesforce 2,
Yep.
the one that's not native sync to Marketo, is that data also in Marketo?
Correct.
So how do you handle the, so if somebody, for example, do you use Marketo forms?
Yes, we use Marketo forms.
So if somebody fills out a form on Marketo, you have to figure out which Salesforce it needs to go to?
So that information here, I can actually go back. Let me go back to the flowchart. So when we are initially ingesting the data, our data ingest point is Marketo. So if business segment 2 or someone from that, a prospect from that segment, if they submit a form, that's going to flow into our Marketo, flow to the matching Salesforce campaign via campaign sync in our primary Salesforce instance. And then that is where Openprise actually picks up the data from our campaign in our Salesforce and then brings it to theirs.
So you have to build a flow for leads in contacts, for example. So you have two flows right now, one for leads and another for contacts. So if a contact, not existent client, but a contact in Salesforce submits a form, the flow is the same. I don't work with Marketo, so I don't know how Marketo works. I work with Pardot. So you have to build like two different flows according to the object in Salesforce.
Great question. So in Marketo, both of those things would be treated the same, whether it's a lead or contact. But when it comes to routing, in this case, if I had to be able to route contacts, I would need to build a flow to do that. So this right now would only be for lead records. In order to route contacts to the correct owner, we would need to just sort of replicate what we're doing here, and just our primary data source would be contact records.
And another question, sorry guys.
Yep.
And you use Openprise to build this flow?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So Openprise is the backbone of this entire process.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. This is the closeout of MOps-Apalooza.